I'm Samantha Brown, professional organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created Pro Organizers Coach podcast to empower you to reach new heights in your business. I am on a mission to build a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just getting started, this podcast is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I am so excited to have with me the ladies from Encore Empire. They have a combined corporate experience of 45 years. Carmen and Deirdre work with women who are ready to own the power they've spent decades building by guiding them through the process of mastering their big ideas, wrangling their doubts, and taking action with smart, actionable strategy. They are a duo of CPA and a certified online business manager and whole person coach, each with their own entrepreneurial background, who have teamed up to help other women in their age bracket cash in on their life experience. Today, we are going to be talking about how to cultivate a CEO mindset no matter what stage of business you're in. Whether you are just starting out, you might be kind of in the middle, or you may actually have been doing this for a very long time. And so I'm so excited for today's conversation. So thank you, ladies, for being with us.
Thanks for having us. We're really excited as well.
Awesome. So the one just talking was Carmen. And then Deirdre, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here today.
Perfect. So yeah, if you guys want to just kind of jump right into talking about cultivating a CEO mindset, and then we'll just go from there.
Sure. So let's talk about the fact that CEOs don't guess. They plan, they review, they look at data to help them make growth decisions, and they're able to view their business from different vantage points. And us as solopreneurs, sometimes when we hear the word CEO, we think of, Bill Gates or someone like that. But by virtue of starting a business, you became a CEO by default. But what we like to do is help our clients become empowered CEOs. So today we're going to talk about 3 different phases. We've broken down the entrepreneurial journey into 3 phases: the startup phase, the fix-up phase, and the grow-up phase. And we're going to talk about what kind of things to be looking at and doing at each one of those phases.
That's why I was saying, no matter where you are in your journey, I'm sure, and even if you're just starting, there's going to be different things you can take away from each of those 3. Or if you've been doing this a really long time, like as service providers, we were taught to be workers, and then we get this business and we love helping people and we're great at the organizing, and we've got that part normally in spades, and we love people. But then you sit down to do the stuff in your business, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, am I supposed to just know how to do these things? And so I love that you all help ladies do that, and that's your passion. Plus, let me plug real quick before we get too far into it, that the Encore ladies are going to be coming into the membership in, I think, May is when we've scheduled it. But here in a few months, they'll be coming into the membership. And so if you're not in the membership, you better come join us soon, because I have fantastic people coming to help us with all sorts of different stuff. But they are specifically coming in to help do a workshop on our values. And the reason that matters, which it kind of even goes with today with mindset, if you're not setting up your business in a way of what your values are, then you're missing a huge foundational piece from the get-go. So then how are you supposed to grow this thing into anything bigger than just, winging it, so to speak? And so I love that you said that it's all about being very strategic.
The reason we want to talk about mindset, like there's a lot to the business of business, right? Samantha, we know there's a lot there, but really it begins with this taking on the roles, the different roles in the business. Now, we've all done roles in our lives, right? We are daughters, and we are moms, and we are wives, and we are probably employees at, some point, or still might be. So we have all these different roles. And when we get into the business, we aren't really sure what that role looks like. We know how to be the worker. We know how to be the service provider, but we don't always know how to run the business. And I'm not talking about just the educational piece of that. I'm talking about how we view ourselves. And the way we like to look at this business ownership is that really there are more than one entity here. There is us as the solopreneur, and then there is the business. The business is its own entity, whether it's set up that way legally or not. We are all doing tax returns, for the business, right? It is an entity. And so we have to understand that our primary role as the CEO from day one is we have the stewardship of this business, meaning we are responsible for it, and it's up to us to make the best decisions for the health and growth of this business.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of us sometimes I think we get into this and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start a business. And then we like do all the steps and we, get our website done and we do this and we start working with clients. And at some point, then you realize, I didn't take the time to actually like think ahead and figure out like, what do I want this to look like? And what are the correct steps for the business itself? I've just been kind of winging it up until now. And so, yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty normal. And don't beat yourself up if that's what you did, because I think everyone who starts out in entrepreneurship starts out that way. We don't know what we don't know. So we do the best that we can. And there's nothing wrong with that. What we want to try to highlight today is how to set yourself up for success in the different stages. So let's talk about the startup phase really quick. One of the things that we really need to do, and this people forget about this piece or they don't think about this piece, is setting aside CEO time, we call it. And this is time every week. We do it once a week. We set Monday aside for a few hours where we are planning for the business. We're doing annual, quarterly, weekly, daily planning. We're checking in with clients. We're doing that kind of stuff that if you don't set aside time for it, it doesn't get done. And you might not know this, or it might not hit you until you start bringing clients on. Then pretty soon you realize that this thing is getting out of control. So the sooner you can start with the CEO time, the better, because you're building that into your process. So we encourage you to once a week, set aside time to work on your business, not just in your business. Do the planning. What do you want your business to look like? And we can say what we want it to look like and set our best intentions for it and set plans for it. And things might change, and that's okay. We don't have to know, but we do want to plan, because it's easier to adjust a plan than it is to just wing it the whole time. So the other thing that we want to do in the startup phase is learn the business of business. And that requires education on some point. If you have a big corporate experience and you understand business from the corporate level, you kind of have a leg up on some people that maybe didn't go through corporate. Either way, you kind of need to understand what it takes to run the business, and that requires education. So get that education so that you do know what to do. This can include what kind of entity to set up, what kind of taxes to file, and Deirdre can go into that, but it requires education for those of us who aren't CPAs, right? She's a CPA, so she knows that part. And then we want to switch from employee mindset to CEO mindset. And if you haven't been an employee and you are a stay-at-home mom, then switch from mom mindset or household manager mindset to CEO mindset. Like Deirdre mentioned, our business is a separate entity and we have a stewardship over that. So now we need to look at it as, I need to look at this business and decide where is it going and how can I best manage that. Now, I will say that if you're a mom or you've been in corporate, typically you understand some of this management stuff. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. If you're a mom, or if you run your own household, your apartment, even if you live by yourself or you and your cat, whatever it is, you're managing your household. You're managing the bills. You're managing taking care of things. You're managing, all that needs to happen to make your household run, no matter what size it is. So we can use some of those skills and bring them into the business. We already have some management skills, so don't sell yourself short. And then we want to also look at what metrics to track. And so the best thing to do in the beginning, I think, is to set aside the CEO time to plan. We want to map out what do we see our business as in a year, and we want to reverse engineer that. And so we say, okay, a year from now, I would like to have X number of clients and be making X number of sales, let's say. And so then we go, well, at the halfway point, what do I need to help get me there? And then we can plan out each quarter, what steps do I need to take in the first quarter to get me set up to do more in the second quarter, et cetera, et cetera. So the metrics that we're tracking here are progression metrics. And we want to make sure that we're mapping out these steps and we're tracking the progress. Because another thing that happens is we all hear about annual planning. We do our annual planning and we think we're done, right? We map it out on a paper somewhere or we do a vision board and we say, okay, I'm good for the year. But that's not really it. We want to really get down into the details and look at, well, I set up a plan for myself to do this quarter. Like, what do I want to get done this quarter? And then what do I need to do each month? And what do I need to do each week? So week by week, you can look at, well, I planned to do this, but I only got so much of this done and something came up. And it's really important to start writing these things down so you can start gaining insights into your work habits. Because until we start tracking things, we don't know what's really happening, so we won't know how to improve them.
There's a couple things you said there, but especially on the metrics. And even if, it's not necessarily looking at vanity metrics or like, oh, how many likes did I get on Instagram? Like, we're not talking about those metrics. What we're talking about is, even if it's something as simple as, like you said, I would like to have this many clients by the end of the year. Well, if you, divide that by 12, that's however many per month. And then, by 4 again, that's per week. But I think sometimes we get so bogged down into oh, I have a client today. Oh, I don't have a client today, that because we didn't have a plan, then we don't even know, are we meeting our goals? Are we actually doing better than we thought we would? But then we're not even giving ourselves the credit for that, because all we can think of is, oh, I have a day off and I don't know what to do with myself. Or, that panic kind of mode of, oh, where's my next client coming from? Or where I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's say you want 24 clients in a year. Well, that's 2 per month. I mean, obviously you probably want more, but I'm just saying. And then if you've already worked with 2 clients that month, but then you're beating yourself up because you have a week left and you don't have any clients that week, your whole mindset would be different of, oh, I've already met my quota for this month. I'm actually ahead on what my goals were. And so then that energy feels so much different than, uh-oh, I don't have any clients this week. Where are my next clients going to come from? How am I going to, it just gets you kind of above it to look at it differently in a way of, like you said, tracking what's actually happening. And what that also helps with is when you hit the next year and you start creating next year's goals, then you have some wisdom. You're able to look back and decide, okay, did this work? Did this not? What did work? What didn't? What am I going to shift? And it's just nice to have those things written down as the years go on through your business. Calling all passionate professional organizers. Whether you are just getting started or you've been doing this for a while, our revamped professional organizers coaching community is open, and I am inviting you to be a part of this journey. For just $47 a month, brace yourself for an enhanced experience that's designed exclusively for you. Every Tuesday evening and the second Sunday of each month at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, we will meet. Throughout the month, you'll immerse yourself in one impactful group coaching session every single week and a guest workshop every single month. Plus, we have our own app to support each other in between those sessions. We know that life gets busy, so our replay vault ensures that you won't miss a moment. Plus, remember, your membership fee qualifies as a legitimate business expense, making it a smart tax write-off. Our community offers unwavering support, accountability, and boundless inspiration. Your journey is our journey, and together we'll thrive. You no longer have to walk this road alone. Our professional organizers community is your tribe.
To touch on the metrics real quick, and then we'll get into the fix-up phase, but there's so many metrics we could track, right? And we don't want to get all bogged down with it, but one of the things I like to always track is we have what we call leading metrics and lagging metrics. And our lagging metrics are, and I'll use financial information as an example because I'm really familiar with it, but when we look at a profit and loss statement from last month from our bookkeeping, that's what happened, right? That's lagging. It's what is. But if we want to look forward and we go, well, that wasn't enough sales, I really want more than that, we need a leading metric. What is it that we can track that will show us that we're progressing toward changing what that number is going to be. And so it can be depending on what your sales process is, and it depends on your marketing. But those are really the metrics we're looking at and we want to track as well, so that we can feel good about we get into a month and we did not get that second client we wanted. And what are we going to do? As you said, Samantha, we're going to beat ourselves up about it. However, if we are focused on the activity to create the client, to bring them in, and we did that, we can feel good about it, because we can't control if somebody hires us or not. All we can do is to take the steps we know to take.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Let go and let God, so to speak. We can only do so much. But like you said, if we know what our goals are, or we know what it is that we're looking to do, and we get those things accomplished, then actually being like, good job, you're doing good. No matter what the outcome necessarily was, the fact that you are doing the steps you wanted to take, great. Because especially as a professional organizer and as a service-based business, and especially when you're first starting, a lot of us start and think the second that we launch, we're going to have a line of people waiting to work with us, and it's just going to be great. But then what ends up happening is, for most of us, it takes a good 6 to 9 months to really get the word out and to, let people start to see our befores and afters. And like, it's not a business that like overnight you have complete success. It's a business that you're playing the long game, but over time it does build, which is something you can count on. It's just, we've got to get that ball rolling and giving ourselves grace during that time while we are getting it rolling, that you're still learning, you're still figuring stuff out, but that you will figure it out and it will start to grow. You just have to stay consistent.
Yeah. And I think what happens is a lot of times women are afraid to look at what's happening. So they ignore it, right? Because they think, well, I don't know enough, or I'm not, and then we get imposter syndrome, right? Where we see someone else doing something, we're like, oh my gosh, she's so much farther along than me. Or, oh my gosh, she knows what she's doing. I could never be like that. And so we sell ourselves short. And by not looking at what's going on and tracking it, even like if you like to journal it. Like, this month, I'm going to do this. These are my marketing activities that I'm going to do for this month. And make sure when you do something, like Deirdre talked about, if you're going to do a new leading metric, meaning you're going to figure out what you can do to change the number from last month to a higher number, make sure that you do it long enough. Or a lot of times entrepreneurs in general don't give things enough time to actually work for them. So if you can get into the habit of actually documenting what's happening, what you tried, business is all about testing, and it always will be. So this is why we call this the CEO mindset. You have to get out of your head and out of the emotion. Emotion is good. We like intuition. We like all that stuff, but we don't want to let ourselves be led by emotion down some kind of path that makes our mindset go off the rails.
Yeah. Well, and I agree 1,000%. I tell the girls all the time too. I'm like, listen, the problem is that we don't stay consistent long enough. Like we're like, oh, well, let me try Google Ads. Okay, well, I tried that for a week. That didn't work. Now let me try this other thing. Oh, I tried Yelp for a week. That didn't work. Now let me try Angie's Lead. And none of them had time to start working and for you to really see. And because it didn't work immediately overnight, you think it was a fail when really it wasn't. It just takes time, again, to get your name out there, to start popping up on that thing, to find your people. Like, it just takes time. And I think time is the one thing that a lot of us, we jump in. And unfortunately, in my opinion, like Instagram and a lot of these places have made it this way, where you think it's going to be like overnight success. And you're just, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to, buy a mansion by the end of my first year in business. And like, that is not how this works. And so, right, that's definitely what the CEO mindset is, being willing to try and give it the time it needs to see whether it works or not.
Yeah. And when it comes to the CEO mindset, and the reason we said it's for every stage and it's a little bit different is because you're faced with different challenges. We all have challenges. And so let's say we get the CEO mindset down in the startup, right? And we're doing all the things. And now we've got clients and we've got money coming in and like everything is awesome. But then we come up with a new set of problems because now we bump up against other things like, oh, well, now I don't have the time I had before. And yet I still have to do my marketing and I still have to have these sales calls with people, but I'm so busy working for clients that I don't know how to do it. And we end up in this fix up phase. Things start to break down and we end up on this revenue roller coaster where we're getting clients in and then we're working with them and then we're done. And then we're like, oh, shoot, I don't have anyone in the pipeline. And then we rush to go do marketing, right? And it's like this up and down thing. And parts of our system that we were working on before are not working anymore because they can't work anymore. And we think it's us. And it is not us. It's just that we are in a different stage and we have to adapt our systems and our processes to where we are now. And we can't do all the things that we did before. And so there's different options. There are getting some help, on the administrative side. That's, of course, one thing that can happen. But then again, it leads to a whole nother set of tasks and mindset that comes up with that. And so the CEO mindset in this fix up stage is really where the planning is important all the way along in that CEO time, but you're actually going to probably need more of it in this stage. You're going to need more time because you've got to look at and really analyze what's working, what's not working. How can I optimize what I'm already doing? Where do I need to hone in and where can I create these systems that are rinse and repeat? Because that is where we're going to get to leverage our time, is when we can build it once and then it's going to begin to work for us. And the looking at the data part becomes even more critical now than it did before because now we have data, right? Because we've had it all. We've been tracking all through startup. Now we can really see what are these trends and that's going to inform us. And again, it takes the emotion out of it. And that I think that's the biggest part of the CEO mindset is being able to separate out and to look at it through this other lens. And like Carmen said, we believe in intuition. We think it's a woman's superpower. And when we put intuition together with this metrics and analytical part, it really becomes powerful. But we have to be able to switch hats, so to speak, to know when should we be using our intuition and when should we have the CEO mindset hat on. And then another third part in this fix up phase is being able to stay focused on one thing at a time, the thing we have found that works, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in our sales process, whether it's in our service to our clients, whether it's in the retention of our clients, whatever that is, that's a system or a process. And we need to be able to look at it and say, how can I simplify this? Because we tend to add on more and more and more. Let's just do more and then it'll be better. But that's not the case. A lot of times we have to simplify because it's the only way we get our time back. And we always will need more time.
We need more time. But at the same time, we're sitting there adding more and more and more to ourselves, like you said, thinking that's going to fix it. We all think that way, unfortunately, until we get the CEO mindset. We think, oh, well, this isn't working or it's starting to work. So let me add these other things and that'll make it work better or faster or whatever that thing is. And really, that's not the case. And I think, especially as a professional organizer, I teach my girls all the time. Let's take social media, for instance, right? That's a system and a process we have to do. I tell them, I'm like, listen, take the same post. First off, create templates. So you're just going in and like popping in new photos, changing the words, and then sending it out. It doesn't have to be the same template. You could have a list of 10 different ones if you want, but go ahead and create those templates so you're not having to create an entire new template every single time you go to post. And then when you go to send that out on social media, also pop it over on Google My Business as a post. Also pop it over onto Find My Organizer as a photo to pop you back up to the top of Find My Organizer list. That same post can be posted in multiple different places, and then you're done. Instead of, oh, I've got to create one for this platform and one for this platform and one for this platform. You don't. Repurposing that content and making it very streamlined and simple is what's going to actually help you the most when it comes to all of those things.
That's right. It's about leveraging time, and you're not going to know how to do that. I will say in the beginning, you can't start leveraging time until you've developed what you think you want to do. So it's completely normal that in startup, we're doing a lot of experimentation. We're doing a lot of what ifs, and I'd like this, and ooh, I like that. You're really brainstorming and testing. You'll test throughout your business, but it's especially happening then because you don't know what you don't know. And until you start bringing clients on and you start developing assets such as programs or freebies or your process, the way that you work with clients, you're not going to know how to leverage that time because you haven't created it yet. But as we go forward and we're past now into the fix-up phase, that messy middle, we really want to look at leveraging time because that's what's going to help us get into the third phase that we like to talk about, which is the grow-up phase. And so in this phase, you've got things hopefully optimized. It's never going to be a one and done. There's not some date on the calendar that you're like, yay, I've optimized everything. Now I don't have to do any more optimization. That's not it, because we're always going to be testing and tweaking. And I think that's important for people to know too, is there'll never be a day when you feel like you've made it because of what Deirdre said, which is once we get to another level, we like to say new level, new devil, right? There's something else that happens. So in the grow up phase, maybe it's time to delegate to a team so that you can make sure that you're only doing the high value things that only you can do. That's in your zone of genius. Now, if you haven't hired in the fix up phase, maybe you have a VA or maybe you have someone doing something, but maybe now you need to look at when you're doing your weekly planning and your annual planning and you look at where do you want your business to go? You have a better idea of the foundation you've set and what can be built from that. So now you look at it and you have to say, okay, well, what am I going to need next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now to get me there? So by the time we get to grow up, we're ready to really step into the vision of the future, but we have to start setting things into play right now that are going to get us there. And what I mean by that is when you're knowing that you're going to grow with a team, like let's say you do have a virtual assistant. You're in the messy middle, you have a virtual assistant, and you can see where you really want to go in 3 years is maybe you want to have a social media manager or a marketing agency or whatever it is for your business. We have to start looking at, well, what is that going to cost me? And we have to start pricing and planning so that we can start earning to get there. We can't stay in today's pricing to achieve 2 years from now's goal. And of course, things will, you can raise prices as time goes on, but you have to know what that is. So start doing the market research on who it is you want to hire to understand what that is going to cost your company, if that's what you want to do. It doesn't have to be hiring someone. I'm just using that as an example because it's a great way to scale and to grow, right? You're taking your business to the next level. You're going to need some help. So when you do that, you want to price based on future needs of the business so you can price and create the strategy to meet that goal. And so something that we know that people don't think about when we're thinking about pricing our products is we think about what is someone else pricing theirs at? What do I think my clients will pay for? And a lot of times here's another place where a mindset comes in where we're like, I don't think they're going to pay this. Oh my gosh, why would someone pay that much? We get all in our head about it. And that's when we're stepping out of the CEO mindset, but we've got to look at pricing as what is your client acquisition cost? Meaning how much time have you and or your team put into marketing, creating assets, doing all the things that need to happen to attract those clients? That cost needs to be covered, as well as your time. So as an organizer, you're going to go in and depending on the size of the project, you'll have different time parameters, perhaps, depending on what it is. But we have to make sure that aside from the time that you're going to be in there and what you're going to be doing, that you've got this whole back end of the business stuff covered so that you can make sure that your pricing not only covers your time, but it covers all of your expenses too. And then we make it high enough so that it allows us to have a cushion to maybe build up over this next year or two, knowing that here, 2 years from now, I want to hire these people. Well, great. Let me have 2 or 3 months in the bank so that when I hire them, I'm not scrambling. You've got something to work with.
Yeah, no, that's such good advice. And exactly what you said of putting the different hats on, no matter what phase you're in. As a woman, I know that, there are those times that, like, even just when I come to record a podcast episode or I come to do a group coaching session or anything that I've done, who knows how many times. And sometimes, like, I'll be pacing before it actually starts. And my husband's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, freaking out because I'm not sure how this is going to go or if I know what to say. And then he's like, "Samantha, you know what you're doing. You've done this enough." And it just takes that one moment for me to be like, "Oh, wait, right here." I'm like doubting myself. I'm in this like not great headspace. And then I'm like, no, I do know what I'm doing. It always goes fine. I've got this. And then I can put that like CEO mindset hat on of like, no, I know what I'm doing. Here I go. Let's just get it done kind of thing. But in the beginning, it's very hard to do that because you don't have, there's no action, there's no metrics, there's no nothing to figure it out. So like you said, that's why you brainstorm a lot. And then in the messy middle, it's just like with our clients, when we help them pull everything out, that's almost the most overwhelming part because then all the stuff starts to hit you and you're like, wait, okay, so I've made all these plans. I want to do all these things. I'm not really sure yet if it's working. Let me start trying to figure out if it is. But then you get into the grow up phase and now you know what's working. You're ready to start scaling. But then, like you said, it comes with a whole new set of problems, all while you're having to manage that mindset and make sure, how am I looking at this? Is this am I looking at my business as its own entity? Because a lot of us feel like it's our baby or like it's our, an extension of us. And it is to a certain extent because we've built it up, but not allowing that to make us trip over ourselves in the fact that like, no, we can look at this objectively and then figure out what we need to do from there.
And Samantha, and this grow up phase, and it begins actually in the fix up phase too, like as you're moving in through that fix up phase and you're getting closer, to the end of it. One of the things when it comes to pricing and this is for all service based businesses, we have this, let's feel our way into the price situation happening. But really the CEO mindset says, what does the business need me to charge? And that's what Carmen was talking about. When we lay out where are we going from here and what is that going to require, it does two things for us. So number one, it informs our pricing. And the second thing is it gives us a reality check. Because if we have this vision of what we want and, I'm going to have a team and I'm going to have organizers underneath me and they're going to be doing jobs for me and I'm going to have all of this stuff happening. When we sit down and we price it out and we see what that is, then we say, okay, at the prices I'm at, how many clients do I need? And then from that number, we can say, is that even possible? And I've done this exercise with our clients multiple times and they're shocked. It's like, in order for me to reach my financial goal, I'm going to have to serve 184 clients this year. Okay. And you want to do an hour of coaching for everybody every week. Well, that just, the math doesn't math in this case. And so this is the kind of thing and the planning that we have to be doing and thinking about. We have to always be looking forward in the future and seeing, what does that look like in reality? And is it even possible, number one? And secondly, do I want to go there? Because I know in a previous business that I built, when I did that exercise and I looked at what does this look like, and it scared me to death. I'm like, that's not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. I do not want to have to do this kind of volume. I do not want to have this many people around me. And so this is why this is so important as we get into this grow up phase to do these kinds of things.
Yeah, actually, I just did a one-on-one unstuck coaching session with someone last night. We were talking about pricing specifically. I was helping her. I'm like, well, hold on. Yes, that's what you're charging for. She was wanting to do hourly instead of sessions, which I teach session pricing. I was trying to explain to her, when you do hourly, you are literally just looking at that hour that you're there working. But the session pricing and pricing yourself with a session, then all of a sudden you get to look at, how much time did I spend beforehand doing the free consultation, the gas, the materials, the actual time I'm going to spend working on the project. at the end of the project, hauling the items off, and your taxes, first and foremost, have to come off the top. There's so many things that go into that pricing. And I think a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know yet. So then when we start looking at that and we realize, oh, there are a lot of things I have to pay for, or a lot of things that my time is going to, that then I've got to make sure I'm getting reimbursed for that, and that I'm not going to walk away from a job feeling like I barely made 2 pennies, because by the time I pay all this other stuff, there's so many things to look at. And so that's why I love talking about this CEO mindset, because when we do get into that CEO mindset, because as a worker, you just have to show up to work and then you get paid. Like, you're good. Then you get to go home. You don't have to think about it anymore. But from a CEO perspective, you've got to pay attention to all those different little things and figuring out what benefits your business the best.
Yeah, and it's the overhead costs. So we have to know what our overhead costs are, and that's separate from what our time cost is, right? And then any materials you might be providing, of course, is separate. So when you create a system for pricing, and this is part of the whole CEO mindset, like, what are your overhead costs? You have to know that. And Deidre can go into this much better than I can because she's a CPA, but we have to know, what are we paying all the time? What does it cost us to run our business? What portion of that do I need to include in my pricing so I make sure that I'm covered? So I'm not just making ends meet or my expenses, but I'm actually making profit and I can pay for myself, or pay myself what I'm worth, right? It has to be more than what we think. And that's when we're talking about that whole feeling our way into the pricing that Deidre mentioned. That's where women's intuition is great, but not in that capacity, right? That's where we have to get into what is real. And we have to look at the numbers. And it's like, don't be afraid of the numbers. The tracking these things. And when we say the word metrics and we talk about this kind of stuff, and Deidre mentioned the profit and loss statement, that might make people go, my gosh, I couldn't ever learn that. Well, I challenge you to question that, because you've learned a lot. If you think about things you've learned in your life that you didn't ever think you could learn, you did it. So now all we have to do is step outside of our fear and those little voices in our head and address this head on and go, okay, I'm going to learn how to read a profit and loss statement so I know what's going on. Because here's another thing is, you may have accountants that are helping you, or bookkeepers. And again, Deidre can speak to this too, again, more than I can. But what you want to know is, you have to know what's going on. How do you know that what they're doing is right? I mean, you'll never be able to maybe check what they're doing, but you at least want to know what the information they're giving you is and what it means for your business. You can't put all of your business's fate in the hands of quote unquote experts. You have to have at least a baseline knowledge so you can have intelligent conversations with the contractors that you hired.
Yeah. Not only that, but like you said earlier, I don't think we give ourselves enough credit, where we've learned so many things along the way. And a lot of things seem so scary, or they seem like these big words, or they seem like it's something that's like, oh, that I could never do that. But what I've learned is, when you have that fear, any sort of action towards conquering that fear will make that fear go away so quick. And before you know it, you're like, oh, wait, I totally get this. Like, this was not anything like I thought it was going to be. One thing I've learned in my business, for instance, is instead of staying in that fear, where just like, now when I go to record, it may take me 30 seconds to pop back out of, okay, nope, I've got this. Let's go. Where when I first started recording, for a day or two before the recording time, I would be like a little, not fearful, but just nervous. But whether it's showing up on video or showing up on social media, or whether it's, talking to people to tell them what we can do for them, or whether it's looking at our profit and loss statements, or whatever that thing is that we tell ourselves, oh, I could never do that, or that's very scary to me. The second we choose a different thought about that thing that we're thinking about, and then we try something, even if it doesn't work and you don't learn it, well, at least you tried, and you're probably a lot closer to learning it, definitely, than you would have been if you never tried to begin with in the first place. So, like you said, I would challenge anyone out there, if there's something that you're like, I've been needing to do this, but I'm just so afraid to do it, or to look at it, or to meet it head on, just start taking some steps towards figuring that thing out. And before you know it, what seemed like this crazy big mountain, you're like, oh yeah, that's just like a little hill. I can do this.
One mindset trick, I guess you call it a Jedi mindset trick, is another reason we talk about the CEO mindset and the hats is because sometimes as human beings and women, we need to like alter our identity, right? In order to accomplish something. Like we have to put ourselves into another place. Like me, Deirdre might be scared of something, but then Deirdre, the CEO, knows she's responsible for this and she has got to get it done. Period. There's no excuses, no questions. It just has to happen. So I can kind of take that identity on, and it empowers me to do something that I might not have been able to do just on my own as myself.
Kind of like Beyonce and her Sasha Fierce when she goes on stage. Yeah. Like, and so, just pick a new name. That's your hat. That's your CEO hat. And then like step into that. And yeah, I love that. That gives you the confidence of, like you said, I may be scared of who I am now, but if I can kind of turn into my own Sasha Fierce, well, then she's not afraid of anything. She knows what she needs to do.
Yeah, it totally helps. I mean, mindset is about figuring out, sometimes I think it's about tricking ourselves. And I mean that in a good way. Like if you know your ruts you fall into or whatever, and you can start looking at it like, well, what do I need to tell myself, or how can I shift out of that? And yeah, if you have to be someone different, or you have to think I can do this because I'm becoming, we're always evolving and we are always becoming something else. We can't stay the same. If we stay stuck in our fear, we can't grow our business. I mean, that's a fact. We can't evolve as humans. We can't do the things we want to do. So we have to kick fear to the curb. And fear is just a reaction that we are wired with to protect us. So we can say, thank you so much, fear, for showing up for me, but I don't need you right now. So I'm going to set you over here and I'm going to move forward with what I know I need to do. We just can't let it stop us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it kind of reminds me of like parenting, for instance, before or even getting married or any of those big things in life that most of us didn't get taught how to do those things. But because of our love for our kids or our husband or whatever the thing is, we figure out a way to feed them every day and bathe them and keep them alive and, all those little things. And like you said earlier, even a mom transitioning to a CEO mindset, we don't give ourselves enough credit sometimes. And, if you don't feel like you have the experience, so to speak, especially in the startup phase, if you don't feel like you have the experience, maybe doing those journaling exercises of what have I walked through? What have I learned over the past however many years? Because until we look at that and realize, oh, I have walked through this and I made it through. And these are the things I learned from that thing. And I went through this I've forgotten about that. I went through this other thing and look at how I turned out, or look at who it helped, or whatever that thing is. Like you said, it's about looking at those things and then figuring out, oh my gosh, I really can do more than I think I can.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. One thing I wanted to mention, Samantha, is, we talked a lot about systems and we need to leverage our time and we need to simplify things. And we wanted to offer a workshop that we've put together for your audience. And it is the Marketing Methodology Workshop. And it is a simple and easy framework where it helps you ditch the marketing overwhelm, because let's face it, marketing is totally overwhelming for everybody. And then it allows you to spend more of your time growing your business. And this is where you can get that CEO time, right? Like in a packed schedule, something's got to give. And so we built this workshop for that very reason, so that we could help everyone learn how to build out their marketing framework. It's not the cookie cutter. It's built for them and they're going to learn to do it. This is another CEO mindset. We have to learn to do the things for ourselves that we need to know going forward. So we've created this simple to follow system that's going to help them achieve their business goals through their marketing and through sales in 3 easy steps. So we would love for anyone listening who wants some help with that, can go to encoreempire.com/PRO. And that's a special link just for your listeners.
I love that because that's going to help tremendously. For me, like everything that I learned in my business has always been through learning from the other professionals that have been there, that have done this, that they're farther along than I am. Why would I not glean their wisdom and do it in my own business? Because obviously what they're doing is working for them. And the wisdom, especially when they're farther along than you in business, there's always wisdom to glean from the other ladies that are farther along than you. So thank you guys so much for offering that. And for you listening, we'll definitely put those links in the show notes below. Again, it's encoreempire.com/pro. Go there, watch that workshop. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on the show. And thank you so much for coming into the membership. I'm so excited for you all to come do the workshop about our values, because that is a huge foundational piece of running a successful business.
Yes. Thank you so much, Samantha. This has just been such a great conversation. I could just go on and on. So that's a good sign of a great conversation.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to proorganizerscoach.com to find all the ways that we can help you succeed in your business. Remember, you have the power to make a difference in people's lives through decluttering and organization. So keep honing your skills, embracing those challenges, and fostering connections. Girl, you've got this.